So you need to tilt down a bit. Bingo, we're live. Good evening.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday night again, and welcome to another Hack Engineering live stream.
Sorry about the fact we haven't been able to use our pre-planned stream for whatever reason. Can't really work out what's going on with it, but hopefully everyone sees and joins this one instead. Been quite a busy week so far.
It has indeed.
Absolutely manic at the minute. As anyone who's phoned up will know, we're booking quite far ahead, which is nice and not so nice at the same time, but plenty of cool stuff coming up. Really good calendar to look at. It's like a dream garage really going on over the next few months. So.
Yeah, a couple of nice bigger jobs as well, which is always, you know, we enjoy sort of the routine work, but it's nice to sort of sink your teeth into sort of a big project. So a few of those in the calendar. So yeah, looking forward to what's coming up. Indeed.
We haven't done one of these for a while actually. I was trying to find when we last did it, and it was quite a while ago. Alex did a really cool sort of machine shop specific live stream 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. Probably 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Look at it, like, where's the time gone?
Yeah, but in terms of a sort of normal Q&A session, it has been some time. So we've got quite a few questions from you guys, which is great. We'll start running through them. If you have any more questions, just get them into the chat. We are watching it. We'll make sure we respond and answer some of your questions. The more interesting, the better. But at the same time, as a wise man once said, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask.
That is very true. We are, of course, in our new film studio as well. So the first Q&A to have sort of happened in this this abandoned warehouse that we moved into with these very realistic walls.
Yeah.
So this is quite a nice space. Obviously, things are always evolving as well. So if there's something you think would be a little bit better for these live streams, please do comment and let us know, because we're always looking to make it a better viewing experience.
Definitely. And if you'd like to meet any of the guys from the workshop or anything like that on one of the live streams, just shout and we'll make them stay late and be part of the fun. But yeah, should we get into it?
Perfect. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions, haven't we? Quite a lot's come in.
Yeah.
So well done if you are watching and you sent something in. We'll try and work through, but there's quite a list in front of us. And as we said, if you do have any questions, put them in the comments. Yeah.
So these questions have all come from either Instagram or Facebook or emails over the last few days, or kind of anything that we thought was relevant within reason. We've put down. So most of it's actually pretty much all of it's from Instagram, but it's always nice. But first one is Juanito E46 M3 on Instagram. What is the cost to rebuild an S50 B32?
We get asked these questions a lot. In most of the QAs we do. I mean, if you are interested in a cost, obviously get an email across. We'll tailor something to actually what you want. And as we say every time, how long's a piece of string? What sort of spec you want? What cars are going in? All sort of considerations that we need to know before
and the condition of it as well.
Yeah,
I think the most regular answer we get when we ask what condition an engine's in is, well, it's running in the car. That doesn't mean it's any good, unfortunately. That's better than it having a hole in the block because the rod's gone through it. If it's running, you're halfway there. But that doesn't mean that the crank journals aren't worn, or the cam caps haven't got scoring in, or cam loads haven't got pitting, or you name it. Unfortunately, that is really not really a full answer. Much we appreciate why we've been given that answer. It's that doesn't mean we can necessarily fully quote. Generally, best thing to do, and unfortunately, it is a bit of a leap of faith. We do understand that, but once the engine's here, we've stripped it down, then we fully requote it once we know what we're dealing with, and it's only really then that you can know what you're dealing with. So, unfortunately, there's no set rebuild price. I think anyone who is doing a set rebuild price is probably not necessarily looking to optimize their engine for your needs.
And let's be honest, they probably will be cheaper than us, and that's because they're not using the right components. They're not putting it together with the right amount of care and expertise that we've got.
And we do see it all the time, unfortunately. Engines being plonked together with the wrong fasteners or the wrong methods of using the fasteners, or no measuring.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Bolt it together. Feels about right. send it out the door.
Yeah, and there's no matter how much experience you've got, you cannot do these things by feel.
No.
Feel is maybe a confirmation on what you think, not a measurement. So yeah, it's just not good enough. And the term blueprinting applies to what we do, and that's where you measure each and every journal on the crank. You measure each bearing, each bore, you name it, in multiple places.
It's hundreds and hundreds of measurements.
Once you get an engine from us with a build book, it is pages and pages and pages of measurements. And if you're not being offered that, it's probably because it hasn't been done, to be honest.
And if it hasn't been done, it's probably going to last.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare for these engines just to go, a lot of people might think, oh, you measure it and you put it together. No, you measure it, you find out it's not quite right. And then, you have to do a bit of extra machining, or you have to, whether it's the head, you want to get your compression ratio perfect without affecting sort of your squish. So yeah, there's a lot of measuring. And there's a lot of cleaning as well, because cleaning everything, measuring everything, realizing that it's not quite right and it needs to be tailored to the build before then taking it back out of the build room, machining it again, making it dirty, cleaning it.
And I think the more complex the build, the more that goes on. You see it all the time, or we get asked it all the time as well. Is can you fit these parts of my engine? And it's not. You don't just build an engine of bits. It's all measured. It's all built properly. There's a hell of a lot more to it. Everything gets balanced. It's not just a buy that bit, put it in, away you go. Going back to the question, if you want to drop us an email with exactly what you've got, what you want from it, an idea of condition, etc., then I'm more than happy to help out. I've got quite a string of S50s at the moment, which is quite nice. Obviously getting rarer and a little bit more valuable. Probably a good S50 we had the other day was Dean's Hartger 3.5.
Yeah, quite a rare car that. So
yeah, don't see many of those around. It's nice to work on stuff like that, of course. Right, we'll move on. Billy, a regular customer, regular commenter, which is always nice. How hard is it to fit an S54 or 330 engine, mini M54, I would presume, in an E30 Touring, or what engine would you fit? I mean, in terms of putting an S54 or M54 in it, there's always so many variables. The way you'd want to do it if you're using an S54 is retain the dual pickup sump, which involves custom front cross member and messing around front suspension geometry and things like that, which is all doable. I mean, the way you can do it more simply is use an E34 sump, pretty much the same as any 24 valve swap, just to change it to a front bowl. Problem with that is oil starvation if you're using it hard. We've seen plenty of S54s that have let go that way, unfortunately. So it depends so much on options. But yeah, I mean, it's not that hard, really. Depends how capable you are and how much money you want to put into it. But yeah, I mean, if you had an E30 Touring, what engine would you put in it?
I'd put a B58 in it.
Yeah?
Yeah, without thinking about the complexity. The complexities of it, without, someone just said, right, just got to do it. I'll put one of those engines in everything. I think they're great. They're a mega engine. They're designed well. They're really cheap at the moment as well. You can pick up like a real low mileage for like $2,000,
Yeah.
Compare that to, I mean, obviously, a hell of a lot more work to get it in there, and a lot more head scratching to get it in there nicely and running properly. But I think that's
That's not the answer I was expecting.
An M57.
Oh, yeah.
What would you go for?
I'd have to finish the build that got away from me. So I had an E30 Touring quite a few years ago. Never saw the road. It was just a project, and I had a M62 B44 for it. So yeah, big V8, lightweight E30 Touring. That would work nicely for me. I mean, if I had endless budget, probably S65 or something. But I think I'd love to finish what I started.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but actually B58 would be so much faster, more fuel efficient, lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of work.
A lot of work, yeah.
But I think there's going to be quite a few exciting builds. You know, maybe not under these roofs. I think a lot of people are going to start utilising that engine swap.
Yep.
Pretty soon. So
yeah,
should be some cool builds going about.
Yes, indeed. I can't pronounce that. Kurt Reiber, maybe. Sorry if I've said that wrong. Just says ARP head studs for S50, S54. So I'm not sure what the question is exactly, but to talk you through ARP head studs for an S50 or S54.
Well worth doing. We see, obviously, you know, S54 specifically, we see hundreds of those cars coming in. Head gasket failure, and the OE bolts do definitely sort of stretch over time. So if you're doing sort of measuring the torque values of undoing the head, you will notice there's a definite variance in the set. So pretty much every car that comes in, unless the customer's dead set on having OE bolts, we'll always uprate them to ALPs.
Yeah, 100%. And S50s, although they don't seem to suffer quite so badly, definitely likewise every build that comes out of the build room that's an S50 has head studs, and they are S54 head studs. They're the same height and everything. They fit perfectly. If you have a look on our Instagram, we posted a photo of an S50 build yesterday. That's got an S54 head stud kit in it.
Now, I don't want to say too soon, because I know ALP is sort of struggling to get stuff out of the factory at the moment. Do we have any of those on the shelf?
No.
Unfortunately not.
No, our reserves have dried up a little bit. We're, as ever, sort of checking daily to, all over the world with various suppliers, including ALP, about getting more. But unfortunately, at the minute,
it's not just those either, is it? It's pretty much every one of their bolt sets is in very limited supply at the moment.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Lovrak.
Who doesn't? Sorry, keep it.
Contemplating buying an E46 M3 again. What are your must-have spec and colours?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you, yeah.
Oh, blimey. Well, we discussed this, obviously, before.
We did.
It's not just, we don't just read through this list. Like, we get quite excited for the live streams. And actually, some of the questions that do come in do get us pretty pumped, actually. You're like, actually, and gets you thinking. Because we spend all day with, such amazing cars, really sort of lose sight on actually, what is your favourite, or what do you like most? And I think I'll go for an Oxford green coupe. Black, quite a rare colour. Not a massive amount of those about.
No, we've seen one in, or maybe two. But
just a nice, like, not too leery. It's just like a real smart colour. Until you see it in the flesh as well.
Did you say manual or
a manual?
You sure you don't want SMG?
Yeah, I'd definitely go probably an SMG that's never had any work on it. Maybe 170, 180,000 miles, where it's like really laggy. Takes a while to prime up. That would be my dream.
Lovely. I definitely black interior. I have a fear of owning any car that doesn't have a black interior, just because I wouldn't.
They just suit a black interior.
They do.
Like the design of it, you get the lighter in. I feel like the shadows and. I mean, it's not just car. I mean, I know you're the same. You wouldn't own anything light. I don't own anything light, and that's because within. Yeah,
I mean, unless you wrap the seat and everything every day, like we do with customers' cars and whatnot, and clean yourself intensely before you get in. For my own car that I want to jump in and out of, I just would have a black interior. It would have to be manual. It would have to be a coupe. Probably, I said Imola Red earlier.
Oh, he's changed his mind.
Probably 50-50. Oh, maybe 60-40 towards Laguna Seca Blue.
What colour's the front going to be? What colour's the back going to be?
Well, if it could fade from Laguna Seca Blue to Imola Red, that would be great. I just love both colours. We've got Jamie's car here, Imola Red. Love that. Got a local customer, Randy. He's got Laguna Seca Blue one. Really, really clean car. Every time I see that, absolutely love it.
I actually saw that car.
Oh, really?
On a little commute a couple of days ago.
Nice.
He uses that widely. So.
Yeah, nice.
And that's, of course, assuming that's a standard spec? Because I think you'd struggle to keep one of those. I mean, they're a good car, but they've got a lot of potential in there.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if you're talking standard spec. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't really have any specific. If I was buying one, I'd want it to be standard, just because I'd want to do it my way. Yeah, I can't. If it had a Carbonis airbox hidden under the bonnet, that'd be nice. But yeah, really, I'd want to be doing it my own way. So hopefully that answers.
I'll butt in there, Ben. We've got a couple of questions, a couple of the old liveys, which of course people are watching, and they want the answer now. So first one: do you have a torque plate available for an M42 with an 87mm bore? The answer to that is no. Nope. Unfortunately, don't get too involved in the 4-pot stuff. To be honest, S14s is about the only one we really get involved in building or machining. Always looking to sort of expand all our tooling and whatnot. But if there's not a market there for us at the moment, it's not something we massively get involved in.
Yeah, I guess if you're after one and you know anyone else after one, it's a problem. If it's an engine we did all the time, we'd probably either already have the torque plate or we'd be happy to purchase it for an M42. Unfortunately, I think they're cool little engines, but yeah, if we know there's a bit of demand to get one in and get it on the shelf, then we happily will, always. But for now, unfortunately, if it's just a one-off, afraid not.
Right, next question. How do you know if the BMW E46 M3 subframe is cracked, and if it is, where would you send it to get welded?
We get asked that first part of the question quite a bit. We get asked to have a look, and yeah, I mean, looking around under the car, we know what we're looking for. However, you can never really tell unless you drop the subframe and really
clean it all up. You've got years of road grime under there.
Yeah, you can always have little cracks hiding and things. So the answer is, if you're looking, even any car that's been inspected, that's for sale. Fair enough, mate. If it's been inspected and it looks okay, then it means it's not drastically gone, but that doesn't mean it's not on its way. So, yeah, difficult to say really with that one. The best way is just to pull it apart anyway. I mean, in terms of where to send it, I don't think it'd really be fair for us to say, to be honest. We work with a lot of places all over the country. I mean, they're probably the kings of it are Reddish over in Bristol, but there's plenty of good guys out there who do a really nice job of it.
Definitely.
So just do a bit of research and choose wisely. Yeah.
Right, we'll squeeze one more in from Steve Emson. I'm pretty sure Steve actually tunes into every one of our live streams.
I haven't seen Steve since
4 days
Saturday.
Yeah. We are both well, thank you, Steve. Steve was up here on Saturday with his cool E36. So excited to see that one run. But he just wanted to know, Ben, I'm guessing something you did discuss on Saturday. Any news on the E36 alloy header tanks?
No. In short, I'm afraid, Steve, sorry. Working on getting some more of those done. But for the moment, no news. And I will let you know when there is news.
Perfect. Well, that's all the live ones, Ben.
Okay.
So, let's head back to our...
If anyone is watching and does want to ask a question, do get it in there and we will answer it. I think one's just come in.
Yeah, it has.
I can't read it from here.
Unfortunately, Ben, I've read it. So we've got Luke's our workshop tech. And Luke's actually just commented asking a question. I think Luke's being a bit funny. Well, Luke thinks he's being funny.
Right.
What is a stroker kit? So it's a pretty ingenious device. It's about this sort of big. It's got an eccentric cam on it and a motor. And
a weird little hand on it.
Yeah, and obviously you plug it into the mains. The wheel goes round. The eccentric cam works on the hand. And then you get a fake hand.
And you get different mounts for cats or dogs.
Yeah. So it's a new product coming to the website soon. Obviously, you're looking at buying it in kit form, but we can actually assemble it for you as well. So get on the website if you do want to buy that stroker kit.
In serious answer, so stroker kit refers to generally a longer stroke crankshaft. It depends how it's formulated. Generally with BMW bits, S54s and whatnot, you will have a longer stroke crankshaft and then a piston that moves the gudgeon pin sort of higher into the piston to take up that extra length of stroke. So you can essentially by lengthening the stroke, you're adding capacity. So you could take an S54 to 3.4, 3.5 litre. You could stroke an S65 to 4.4 or more, all the way up to sort of 4.7. A stroke kit is basically a longer stroke crank and whichever other bits are needed to make it work. I think another case of you don't just fit the bits.
Yeah,
as well.
unfortunately, so I've got the stroke kit. Can you fit
kit
it?
is
It's
a killer.
It's the crankshaft. It's the most integral part of the engine. It sits right in the middle of it. It's not just a case of fitting it. That's pull the whole engine apart and check everything else at the same time.
Yeah, and what
so many vital components running off of it.
You might find. I think it tends to be a bit less with BMWs, but you might find you have to relieve the block to allow for the extra throw. Was that an S14?
S14 we did. Yeah, I can't remember.
It needed quite a bit of machine work.
But
that was 2.7, but I can't remember the stroke.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work involved potentially. I know a lot of American V8 stuff. You have to machine the block quite a bit to take a longer stroke crank. And then I have weird conrods with the bolts kind of recessed into them to try and add clearance. So yeah, it's never a case of just throwing it in. There are some really good kits out there. But yeah, it's not just a fit a stroker. It's build a stroker. But yeah, it's all a way of adding capacity.
Yeah, that sums that up.
More capacity means more powers. Right, let's get back into these questions here. Matty Berry, looking at an S50 B32 Vanos rebuild, what are the main areas to look at?
Oh,
no way.
What are the chances? Here's one we refurbished earlier.
So this is your S50 B32 Vanos unit. Alex will give you a quick talk through it while I hold it nearer the camera.
So obviously what you're going to notice is it is twin Vanos. So it's actuated on both the inlet and the exhaust cam. Fully variable as well, which is a bit of a step up from the B30 before. So you want to sort of look at it more as, a lot of people get scared by Vanos, but you actually, if you break it down to what it's doing, it's a hydraulic block which pumps two components in and out, and that varies your cam timing. So the main sort of things to look out on, of course, is seals, the bearings in the sort of shafts as well. They're sort of prone to sort of wear. So as you can see, sort of bends, twisting that part there. This one's been rebuilt, and the bearing, sort of the shim plates inside the bearing.
They feel lovely.
The good ones.
They're good ones, yeah.
Have been sort of replaced to take up a bit of the play and tighten those up. That's sort of the main thing, really. Obviously, you've got two electrical solenoids sitting in there, which are on the ends of sort of inside the unit, but on the end of those cables. They are prone to sort of the solder joints breaking on them. So it's a case of stripping it all down by using sort of a special little setup we've got here. We actually sort of simulate the Vanos working, checking those solenoids actually work.
Yeah, I think we see them all the time as well, where the solder's been repaired before and not done particularly well, and then it cracks again. Yeah, there's all sorts of problems. But yeah, essentially all it's doing is using oil pressure to push those shafts in and out, which changes your cam timing, in very much layman's terms. In terms of what to look for in a rebuild, we sell all the bits to rebuild these.
I wouldn't just do everything.
Yeah, just do everything. It's the same we say to anyone who calls. There's no point going into it to just do seals to then in a year's time have to do rattle repair or do solenoids again or whatever it may be. So yeah, if you're unsure, just drop us an email and we can send you a link to all the parts. And generally all on the shelf here.
Yeah, or if not something you want to delve into, you can of course just ship us your whole unit down. We'll fully strip it, clean it inside and out, make sure all the oil galleries are actually clear as well, and then rebuild it out with all those new parts.
Yeah, and you can also put your car in if you don't want to tackle it at all. Lead time on the workshop's a little bit longer at the moment, but yeah, we're always working on it. But yeah, we do these all the time,
day in, day out.
Vanos units are very much our bread and butter. Next one, Graham Sanchez, E46 M3 rod bearings. What bearings and ARP or OE bolts?
Oh, what a
Look
lovely...
at this here.
Right, we'll start with the bearings. So we've obviously done a lot of big end bearings on these, and having the knowledge of sort of building the engines at the same time, we actually know what we're looking at when we're sort of doing it. So we've done a lot of analysis on different types of bearings, and we have, for the moment, settled with ACL. They're definitely by best the most reliable, both in their manufacture, sort of their finish and their sizing.
Yeah, and we've been, how long have we've been using ACL now? Probably
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, something like that. And it's not, we've done 1 or 2 cars in 2 years. We've done,
I don't want to add it up, to be honest. But...
yeah, who knows? A lot. And as Alex said, we're building engines in the engine builder room, using ACL bearings as well. So they are very much our preference. And I think probably unlike a lot of places, we actually measure them, and we know what we're looking at. We're not just fitting them because someone else did. They're measured, tried, tested. Very much our preferred bearing. Yeah, same for S65s and anything really.
Yeah, they're a good bearing. The only thing that annoys me is ACL. It's not a negative. Their surface treatment they use on like the final coating does give like a discoloration. So we do get quite a few questions saying, "Oh, I bought these bearings. They don't look very good." And I probably agree. They don't look very good. But we work quite closely with ACL, and they assure us that it's because of the treatment that they sort of use on their final coating. It's literally nothing to worry about. They're a very good bearing.
I've heard your secret best friend is Mark at ACL.
Yeah, me and Mark from Launceston.
Yeah.
In Tasmania. Yeah, me and Mark go way back to sort of an email chain a few years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
As for bolts, ARP, in short, I know there are threads online that suggest otherwise, and we probably talked about this umpteen times. We've tested, and certainly in terms of the later M10 threaded rods, so after February 2003, it's so difficult to explain in 2 minutes, but essentially when you're taking a rod apart, putting it back together, changing fasteners and whatnot, it's never going to be absolutely perfect, but the ARPs are far more consistently very good, whereas standard stretch bolts are all over the place. So you might be lucky, you might get a sort of roundness that's slightly better than ARP, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to get worse. Likewise, we've used ARP bolts in all of our big end bearing jobs since 2015. 2015, 2016. Always use them, and never had any problems. Again, tried, tested, measured. We know what we're dealing with. And well, to be honest, we generally turn people away if they want standard bolts. ARP only, really. So that's that. ARP, ACL, done. Bang!
That's probably really loud. I hope the audio is actually all right tonight. So we've invested in some new microphones. So any feedback on sort of what the audio is like would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Quite loud,
quite aware as crackly before.
Yeah, you've gone for the stealth approach where you've actually tucked it under your.
Oh no, it's falling in. Oh, I've lost my little.
Oh no.
Don't worry, I found it. I'll put that on.
Where were we?
Don't mind me.
Andrew Peacock. So Andrew's question is trapezoid rods. What are they, and what are the advantages? Again,
you are so prepared, Ben.
Yeah. Well, this is a rod from a McLaren V8, road car engine, not race car engine.
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed I had to pull them out, really, but
the
daily drive
video.
Needed, when you stick 250,000 miles.
A customer of ours who works for McLaren very kindly donated this to us as a little nice thing to put on our counter. And these McLaren rods are a trapezoid design. S65s also use that, and various other sort of newer BMW engines. Generally, the older stuff is standard. I'll hold these close to the camera. So that's your standard rod. It's just essentially, from the side, it's a square, small end. Trapezoid is tapered. So that's the difference. And why they do that is basically you can save weight, you save friction, gives you more room to add a bit of mass to the piston, which is, well, it's good. The cons of it, more expensive to manufacture. And also for very high revving applications, especially if you're using a heavier piston or rod, then you've got less material here, which is what stops the piston being able to throw itself up off the rod. So as with everything, there's a compromise, but knowing what you're dealing with and why is good. Obviously, these are 8 of these, and there's 8 in a McLaren engine, but they make
7 in that one.
Yeah, this one's a bit rattly, probably, but and they're 6. I don't even know much about McLaren. So 670 horsepower. But yeah, it's quite interesting actually how much heavier duty an S54 rod is compared to that. Weighs nothing, but yeah, that's why they rev happily. Less weight.
Nice. I wouldn't want to be the guy who has to do a little end bush replacement on one of these. I'll tell you that. It's quite interesting as well. Like
big little end.
Sort of the lubrication channels, and actually the little end's quite interesting. And it's a split bush, which is
I don't see that too often, really.
Yeah, there's some cool design in this. So even though it just looks like a rod, there's definitely some magic going on. Yeah.
There you go. Alex, I think you have a little something to talk about.
Let's get a few more questions. Mine's really not as exciting as your nice McLaren rod, to be honest.
Meady 1988. So we had Jason's car in last year, this year. I don't even know. All blurs into one, unfortunately. F80 M3, really nice car. What gains are expected on the single turbo S55 conversions? So that's a product we've added to the website this week. Walter Motorsport, who we've known for years, have developed a single turbo kit. Again, the word kit, unfortunately, but it's the best way of describing it. To use a Garrett G35 turbo. I mean, in terms of expected gains, it's going to be a far more efficient manifold design than standard.
Their stuff is good.
Yeah,
they know what
they
they're
are.
doing.
Yeah. Mike is. I've known Mike since before Walter Motorsport, just about. And I know what he was doing before was, next level. And it's cool to see that he's sort of doing it for himself. So it's going to be far more efficient. You're going to see a turbo setup that's far kinder on engine internals than a cast manifold. That's probably, it's not really loading the each cylinder particularly well. Scavenging and the effects like that. You're basically going to stress one cylinder far more than the next. So they're not the best. I mean, they work. They obviously make power, but in terms of actual engine efficiency, the Walton setup is going to be really good. What it'll do on standard internals, don't really know. You are going to hit the limit of strength. But I mean, ultimately, the turbo that's combined with is rated to 1,050 horsepower. And with Mike's work and a good surrounding setup, I don't see why you wouldn't get near that. As long as your engine can support it.
Drop us an email and we'll get you an estimate across for one of the Hack Engineering S55 bulletproof engines.
No easy answer. I'm quite sure you'd see some very healthy power on standard internals, but to be honest, I think I'll let someone else find that out before the expensive way. Right. Oh, that's a good question for you. Individual underscore E90. So this was in relation to Tom's E92 M3 that I'll post some photos of. Is it better to cut the alley seal for oversized pistons or change with sleeves, with cast iron sleeves? I didn't read that very well at all. Apologies.
A lot of it comes down to sort of the application. If you're looking at like absolutely monstrous figures, then I maybe would look at the sort of the sleeve route. But to be honest, the material that BMW chose to sort of use in that block is it's pretty clever stuff actually, and the alley seal bores are good, as long as they're done properly and prepared properly. Unfortunately, not a service we offer in house, boring alley seal. It's a very specialist. Only a couple of people in the country actually do. But if I was NA, I'd always 100% just go for the alley seal.
Yeah, there's a reason BMW developed and chose it.
Yeah, and actually the technology, engines were running cast iron cylinder walls 150 years ago, 120 years ago. They weren't using alley seal in their piston walls. So technology, it's been developed. It's definitely got quite a few pros over a cast iron liner. So I'd utilise that. Obviously, I'd need to know the application that they're looking at, but NA stuff.
Likewise, if I was building it, and Tom's car is alley seal bore, quite happily, over 700 horsepower. It works. It's actually a very strong material and has really good friction properties and bits and bobs that all help it work nicely.
Yeah, and in terms of like bore technologies, if you don't actually know what alley seal is, so the whole block is cast out of this material called alley seal, which is sort of like a silicon impregnated aluminium. So you'd actually sort of bore out the main bore, and then by using various sort of chemicals and procedures, you'd actually eat away the aluminium, so you're just left with the silicon. So the piston rings are actually running on fundamentally a bore of just silicon. So it's mighty hard. And obviously that helps with all your oil retention as well. So it's very cool stuff.
There's Nicosil is vaguely similar, but I believe I'm right in saying Nicosil is applied to an iron bore, whereas alley seal is actually the material that the whole block's made of. So it's quite cool. I think we've had another question.
Round of applause for BMW.
Oh, cool.
Oh no, sorry, I was just giving BMW
sorry.
a round of applause. No, they were just saying that the audio is
good.
The audio is good,
Fantastic
which is
to hear.
A great success.
Yeah, I think that's been a bit of a weak point before. One we struggled with, so I'm glad it's working. Britain 4908. So this was actually a comment on a photo of the S50 that I mentioned earlier, saying, "Do you guys use sealant instead of genuine BMW gasket?"
I know the photo. Yeah, so that would have been sort of on the S50 B30 and B32. You've got your cylinder head. Then you've got sort of a lower cam ladder. So that bolts onto the top of the head, and then the cams go in that. So in between that is where you've got a machined aluminium face on both components. BMW didn't design it to have a gasket. There is no gasket. It's a pretty common thing in cylinder heads, sort of where you've got a metal to metal face. So yeah, we just use a sort of an anaerobic sealant in there, and that does, just takes up any slight imperfections there are, but you wouldn't really want to run a sort of a high silicon content sealant, because it's not the right job, not the right tool for the job. The correct sealant's not cheap.
No.
But as with anything, if you're doing it properly, you use the right parts, and you'll get an engine that will last and not start leaking oil in a couple of thousand miles.
Yeah, and it's exactly the way the factory did it.
Yeah.
It's not designed to have anything that stops it being able to squish perfectly between the two aluminium faces. You're just looking for something to seal up any little gaps in it that might let oil seep out.
I mean, there are very few gaps. It's designed to fundamentally be metal on metal, and if you get a perfect, it's like if you get two perfectly ground pieces of metal that are completely parallel to each other, they'll pretty much cause a vacuum and stick to each other.
Yeah,
so it's sort of the same principle there, really.
Yeah, and you do have O-rings around the spark plug bores, and there's a couple of oil ways and things that have O-rings, so you're not just relying on that sealant, but I mean, essentially that sealant just finishes the job of a nicely machined surface.
Yeah.
Luke,
and then then BMW scrapped the whole thing, designed the S54, and it was mega.
Yeah, life was better for everyone. No, that's a bit harsh. We both love an S50, but in terms of actually how
engineering progression,
the S54 is actually a much simpler engine in many ways, which is not always the case, but it's nice to see that they took a bit of a clean sheet approach. Luke 250882, it's a catchy one. Do you only work on S54 or do you take on repairs to M54?
Depends on sort of vehicles. Workshop side, we generally probably would only specialise in sort of, well, we do generally see E46 M3s, don't really see many 330s. But engine building, we do, not to the same extent that we sort of build S54s, which we're seeing a lot coming in, a lot going out. We have got a nice M50 54 B30 build on the go at the moment, which is going in a Z4, I believe.
Yeah, Z4 race car. Yeah, it should be really nice actually. It's nothing too outrageous.
Yeah, just a good
putting the
refresh,
money into the machine work and make sure everything's perfect, rather than bits that pistons and rods, nice though they are to have. The money's actually been spent on bits to just make it reliable and perform.
Yeah, get every power from the front to sort out the harmonics. And it's going to just be a nice build. Quite excited to get that one together and out the door. Really,
yeah, and it should be pretty bomb-proof. Shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
touch wood, but yeah, it's just having the money spent to make it every bit as good as it should have been from factory, with a few nice extras. But it is having strict cams as well, actually, which should be nice.
Yes,
but yeah, relatively mild, just done really, really nicely and with all the right bits. So yeah, that's what we like to see. That's what makes a reliable engine, is spending the money where it needs to be spent. Did I see another?
There is. What is the highest revving engine you have built, and what were the main challenges you encountered along the way?
Good question.
Yeah, thinking back to sort of high.
Yeah, probably S54. I can't remember. I think Dave's revving his to 8.5, or or we did it wasn't a full build by us, it was a refresh really. But a drift S54 turbo.
Yeah,
I think that was revving to the best part of 9,000 RPM.
Yeah, he held that pretty high up there, and it's still going strong.
In terms of challenges, keeping the shims in the head is your number one problem. As soon as your spring can't keep up and you have a bit of a gap between open up between the cam follower and the spring retainer, unfortunately that shim may well pop out. There are solutions, which actually we'll talk about with a question coming up in a minute. Yeah, I mean, if you're building anything to rev, your biggest challenge is usually weight. You've just got to get everything as light as possible. Otherwise, the force of swinging it all around becomes too much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not BMW related, but if we're going to talk about sort of high revving engines, not ones we built, but we both run a little 400cc motorbike over the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
And if you're into sort of looking at high revving engines, then you can't look anywhere else but motorbikes, because it's sort of next level. I can't remember what that thing redlined at. It was like 16 grand, I think. So
yeah.
If you are used to car engines, you like the tech, I'd advise just do a bit of reading about sort of bikes and sort of what they can rev to and what technology they use.
Yeah,
sort of.
And if you pull a bike engine apart, you can see why, because everything is tiny and really light. Especially the more modern stuff, you'll have fancy coatings on things and nickel bores and you name it. It's just size is your biggest problem, and torque.
You want something to rev, got to get rid of weight, get rid of friction,
make everything small, and that means that by making it smaller, that generally means you've got an engine that will make less torque, and then, well, essentially, then in a car you can't drive it in traffic because it's limp wristed.
Yeah, there's always going to be downsides to getting your power from higher up in the range.
Yeah. Whereas if it's in a bike that weighs probably 140 kilos, if that, then you don't need the torque to get it moving. So it's always compromise, basically, in short. If you want something that's going to work at high revs and rev highly, you probably have to sacrifice torque and capacity. So,
well, we'll go for another question. Squeeze it in there. Any big power S54s in progress? No, so not at the well. Depends what you mean by. I mean, in my eyes, big power is generally forced induction.
Yeah.
Someone says big power. I don't know. Yeah, that's probably the generic term, isn't it? Which we haven't at the moment. We've got a lot of nice NA S54 builds on the go, but not.
Yeah, it's quite unusual actually to not have a forced induction S54 in for build at the minute.
But yeah, obviously, go back through our history. We've built plenty of them, and as Ben said, quite a rarity to not have one on the go.
Yeah, I can't remember what. I mean, talking like 800 plus horsepower is big power.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have. It's not an engine build as such, but we've got a Z4M in January that's having a VF570 supercharged kit and a bit of an engine refresh to make sure it's all.
Oh, but Ben, it goes back to what we said. What is it? It's a kit, but you can't just fit it. What else have you got to do?
Yeah, exactly that. So we've got to make sure the engine's in tip-top condition, and then apply some boost. The VF kits are really nice. They've got a charge cooler in the intake manifold, which, funny enough, is exactly like a B58 we were talking about earlier. There is a B58 intake manifold just out of shot. It's just there's so much more to it than just applying boost. It's all got to be done in the right way, and then it will make good reliable power.
Yeah.
But yeah, that thing should be pretty rapid. Being a pretty small car, 570 odd horsepower.
Yeah, I think I've got to test drive that one actually. Right. Back to these then. Nasty PM3, should we say? Is the supercharged engine too heavy for track use? I think this is in reference to a customer of ours who's actually just put his car up for sale. Tom's S65 supercharged.
It's on our homepage if you want to look at it on hackengineering.co.uk. I mean, weight on a supercharger setup. There is weight. Generally, a lot of the parts are aluminium. Depending on the kit, you get quite a few that will have quite a big, heavy front mount intercooler hanging off the front, which is definitely not ideal in terms of weight. But I mean, there's not an enormous difference in weight between a normally aspirated and supercharged engine. There is a difference, but in terms of track use, it's not gonna ruin the track experience of the car. I mean, if it were me or you and you're building a track car, I probably wouldn't run a supercharged engine.
I just love NA, Ben.
Yeah,
I love NA. I think you're the same.
Yeah,
like, it's cool. I love supercharged stuff.
I love the technology, but for me, like raw normally aspirated power,
raw
and the
power that we have to
predictability of
work
it.
for.
Yeah. And the predictability of it, and it will be lighter over the front with no supercharger or anything. So horses for courses, if you want 700 horsepower, then you're going to struggle to do that without a supercharger. So,
but do get in contact and we can try.
Yeah.
For unlimited budget.
Yeah. On to our final pre-submitted question. Jamie Cave. So we mentioned Jamie's car earlier. It's here. Imola Red E46 M3 caged.
A mega car. Actually,
I love it.
Car. It's cool.
It's got some really nice bits. AP Racing brakes, Carbonis airbox. We've just put a lightweight clutch and flywheel in it.
And not to shun all the other customers, Ben, but Jamie, he's always popping in, bringing us donuts.
All I'm saying is biscuits go a long way.
Greatly appreciated, Jamie, if you are watching or you do watch this.
Yeah.
We're always very thankful for your biscuits and your donuts.
Yeah,
and your car. Your car
makes our day.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Our needs are simple.
Yeah, I'll be sad to see Jamie's car go. It makes all the right noises. It's got decent, big tyres under it. It's just a bit of a track weapon, and he can drive. So, good combo. Back to the question: no budget. How would you go about building an S54 that could rev to 10,000 RPM reliably?
Okay.
Yeah. It probably comes back to the good old triangle of reliability, expense.
And of course, the problem with power, if people don't know about the S54 in terms of sort of piston speeds, I think is it the third highest piston speed in any production engine that's ever been made.
Yeah.
So sort of by pushing that red line up even more,
Yeah,
you know,
you're asking a lot of these.
you're asking
chaps.
a lot of those, and you're asking a lot of everything else.
Yeah, and it's always a battle. You can fit stronger con rods. You can fit whatever you want, but you're generally actually probably adding a little bit of weight, which you're just constantly up against this battle of how much piston speed can be handled by any component. But I mean, I'd de-stroke it.
Yeah.
Down to a 3 litre or even if you go further than that.
Yeah, that would have to be a must. I don't think you could.
Yeah.
Struggle to reliably keep up there unless you lose a little bit of capacity.
You probably want titanium con rods or something like that. Maybe aluminium, but I mean they tend to be more for drag racing. Yeah, you just got to lose as much weight from everything rotating as possible. I don't know what the highest, whether there'd be a certain rev range at which you'd find issues with timing chain guides and sort of chain thrash. Certainly oil pump chain is going to be thrashing around, so it probably has to be dry sump. You get problems, things that people don't think about as well. If you're trying to rotate the oil pump that fast, you get cavitation, and that can absolutely destroy an engine. You name it. And as we mentioned before, the shim popping out the top of the
that'd be my biggest worry on that sort of design, to be honest.
Yeah, so you can get lash caps, which are essentially rather than a disc that sits in over the top of the valve stem. It's a cap that actually sits around it. You still may struggle. It'd be interesting. Definitely something that would be very interesting to do and find where the actual limit is. It's just a very expensive development exercise.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty cool one to do.
But yeah, I mean, a 10,000 RPM,
right,
3 litre.
De-stroke it, take it to 3 litres. Get rid of as much weight, without losing strength.
Yeah, that's the battle.
Sort out the shim problem up top. Yeah, it's still going to be a challenge to get there.
Yeah. But I mean, anything's doable.
Yeah.
If you've got the budget. So
it would sound epic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it definitely would. That's probably your next headache as well, is whether you can actually get the air in and out at 10,000 RPM.
Yeah, it's all well and good getting there, but if it's not actually doing anything for power, it's quite an expensive exercise.
Yeah. So all doable. Yeah, it's what everyone's been doing since the internal combustion engine was designed or invented, is pushing more out of it. But finding those limits is frustrating, expensive, and involves a lot of broken bits.
It does indeed. Well, that concludes our questions that were sent in earlier. So thank you for everyone that sent those in. Hopefully we managed to answer them in a way that you can understand.
Yeah. And we will try and get a bit more time and do more of these Q&A sessions. It's always interesting to know what you all want to know, and the good questions that make us think a bit.
And it doesn't always have to be, as we've said before. It's nice to have a big list of separate questions, but if you want, I'm going to run out of time, Ben.
Oh no!
If you do have any, if you want, we would be happy to do a segment on one specific area if there's sort of enough interest for it. So rather than just loads of questions, we pick one question and we delve right into it, try and get some props and actually talk through sort of a process we do or something we do or a product we sell. Yeah,
always up for that. And if you have enjoyed watching, please do take a minute and give the video a like.
Yeah, we've had plenty of viewers tonight and we've only got 4 likes, so I expect more of everyone watching. So please click that button.
We'll just stare at the camera until you do it.
Yeah, because it does help with spread the hack engineering word throughout the tube.
Yeah, definitely. And the more you like it, the more often we'll do it. Simple as that. So yeah.
Fantastic.
We'll leave it about there.
We will. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Make sure you subscribe as well, actually.
We are useless.
Why stop at liking? Go for the subscribe. But yeah, we'll end it there. But thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you soon.
I'll cause a distraction over here, Ben. Ta-da.